What's going on, friends? James the Win here with the Alpha Red Comic Channel. And I'm all kinds of discombobulated because I am trying to get ready for the art auction over at Comic Book Radio right after this. But for the next hour, we are going to draw. But that means I'm going to jump right in to the um, into the into the drawing. Let me see if I situated the camera right. I bumped it accidentally, so this is what we're gonna try to make sure that that lamp isn't gonna be all boogered up. So I don't know if you guys are following Rob Liefeld's Facebook page, but he has these art contests that I've been trying to enter and win, and so a lot of the drawings that what's going on? Hang on one second. I'm late on the chat stuff, so I do want to say hello to everybody. But I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So the Facebook page, Rob Liefeld's Facebook page. I'm trying to win this contest. Well, this one has no repercussions, but the Youngblood one that I entered was a possibility to be published, be used as a cover for Youngblood. And he did open it up. He was going to choose more than just the winner, and so I did send that off. And I thank you for everybody who voted for mine. But here we're going to jump in and ink this Cable and Prophet picture. Okay, so this is 11 by 17. I haven't drawn on an 11 by 17 image on a Bristol board since probably the cover for Alpha Red, and that's been since probably September, I believe. So we're going to jump right in, like I always say, but never do. We're going to jump right in and start inking because I am on a timetable. So if you guys did not join us yesterday afternoon, and this is funky too, because like you can't see it, but like there are like right here and right here are the thing that holds up the camera. So I'm not used to having it. If you can hear that, it's banging back and forth. So I'm gonna do some gymnastics here to try to avoid hitting that as I spin the board around, the paper around. So hopefully the parts that I'm inking will easily fit into the page. I'm looking for my number 3. My number 3. Of course, I put it very, very far away from me. The Pigma Micron is what I use, guys, to ink. And my style of inking is that I kind of trace it initially, and then I go back and thicken up some of the lines with a thicker pen. But I'm going to start off with an 03. But before I start off, I'm going to say hey to my buddy Rod Revensaber. The name is Cable. Remember it. That's right. That's right. Let me see if I can move this over so I'm looking more like I'm looking at the screen here when I'm reading it. Ernest with a thumbs up. Thank you for being here, Ernest. And OSH Radio, Mr. Crazy John Carricks is in the house. So welcome, guys. We are going to get started with this number 3, and I don't know if you guys can see this Pigment Micron number 3, and we're just gonna jump right in. And I hope you guys had a great weekend. It's winding down. We had a bunch of snow up here in the Syracuse area, and it was felt bad for my son. He's been plowing all week. He owns a plow company. His first real winter where he's got like 8 trucks, 7 or 8 trucks. Very proud of that young man. So if you notice as I'm drawing here, like this will be the main gun, but like as I do the bend in the gun, I'm gonna kind of not give it a whole straight line so that it just hints at it. But anyway, my son was plowing all weekend, or all week. Actually, it started Sunday night, and he had a day or two break, but he wasn't feeling well because he was out all night. He's up like 36 hours at a time. But very proud of the young man for, it's his own business. He's 20. He has all these guys hired. But this is hard to see. Can you guys see? I hope you guys can see it. This is probably not the most exciting part of it when I have to use the ruler and things like that, but it definitely makes for a page that is more professional looking. So I don't think there is any reward for winning this art challenge over on Rob Liefeld's Facebook channel, other than bragging rights and knowing that Rob Liefeld is looking at it, and if any opportunities pop up, you know, you're kind of in his brain as a, hey, he can fill in for a page or two or three or whatever. I don't think I would do a whole comic. I'm just I really have my plan for Alpha Red, and probably after this one, guys, I'm gonna jump right back into Alpha Red and not do very many more of these art contests. They're so fun though, for me. I don't know if you guys enjoy art contests, but I am totally into them. Lots of luck. Keep entering till you win. That's what John says. And yeah, I won the one. I've won 2 so far. I've entered probably 4, and I've gotten close a couple times to winning. So one of my old buddies from another forum called 10 Ton Studios, way back when we used to have art contests, and Brett Barkley is the one who won last week's Suprema contest. Once he started entering, it was really hard to win. Brett has a very finished style, and he's hard to compete with. We've shared tables at Artist Alley. He's been over to my house. He lives in, oh man, I don't even remember where he lives anymore. He used to live in West Virginia, Brett Barkley. But it's cool to like remember, I don't know, run into the same guys to see what they're up to and what their skills are like. And he's got it going on for sure, still. He's still got it. Brett Barkley still got it. So he's a stay-at-home dad, I think, still. I don't know. I believe. They've got like 6 kids. When I knew him, he only had 2 boys, Steel and Knight. Can you tell he was a DC fan? Steel was the older one, and he was Man of Steel, and his younger brother's name is Knight, for the Dark Knight. So what are you guys up to? What are you reading? I'll tell you what I'm reading, what I read this week, if you tell me what you read this week. I read one relatively recent comic, and then one I found in the dollar bin. So the one that I found in the dollar bin was a comic called Sectars, based on the cartoon from way back when. I remember the toys, Sectar, the toys. I don't remember much about the cartoon. I just remember that the toys were like huge. They were not your G.I. Joe sized figures. They were definitely like Barbie sized. That's what it felt like. But they were like insectoid type characters. And let me see if I have it nearby. Maybe I'll go grab it after I get done with this. like I said, this is the least interesting part of it. I should have just did this before I got on, but I don't know if you guys like to see the whole process or not. I just eyeballed all of this. So if it doesn't look right, it's my fault. But sometimes you don't even need this much ruler action. I once met Jim Lee at the Baltimore Comic Con. I won a contest, an art contest, and the prize was to spend like, I don't know how long we spent in there with him, like 40 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes. He ended up spending an hour and a half with us. But we got to show him some of our artwork, and he gave us a critique of our artwork, and he talked about like the tools he used and stuff, and he says he never uses a ruler. I thought he was joking, but he was like dead serious. And I don't know if that's true or not, but he didn't let up. And I was like, I see your buildings and they look pretty straight. But maybe he's just that good, you know? Maybe he's just that good. But yeah, so I don't spend too much time. I mean, I do obviously use a ruler, but when I go back and I do the final outline to really bring the gun out or whatever I want to highlight, I don't tend to use a ruler. But watch, I won't feel confident today, and you'll see me using a ruler because I want to win, darn it. The competitive nature comes out. I'm not naturally competitive, so, but I guess it just depends on what the game is, because when it comes to artwork, I am. And driving, I like to drive fast. I like to win when it comes to driving. My wife doesn't like that, but yeah, like all this stuff, I was just winging it, and now I feel like, because I have the ruler right here, I feel like I ought to use the ruler for everything. And I do apologize if that bores you to tears. So I should show you that I do like come up with a reference sheet, right? So I just go online and I grab a bunch of pictures and I try to see what inspires me and make sure that I have some of the costuming right. I don't always do that, but I like to try to when I get a chance. So that's like, I couldn't think of a good Rob Liefeld gun, so I just looked up sci-fi rifle and picked one that looked kind of cool. And I'm not, if you look at it, you can see that I'm not using the whole thing, but just kind of inspired by whatever that gun was. Just a long gun. I don't know if you guys are into the sci-fi stuff. Ernest says, forgot to tell you, I received my package earlier this week of the sketch cards and cover art. Looks so awesome in person. Thank you, Ernest. Thank you for your support. Thank you for picking those up. And I'm glad that they got there in good shape. And I'm just grateful for you guys and your support. And it all goes back to Alpha Red. So I don't just stick it in my pocket. I mean, I do. I have a budget, a comic book budget, and it goes into the comic book budget, but I don't buy many comics. So it all really does go into the production of the next Alpha Red. So very excited for you guys to see Alpha Red number 6. It is at the printers. I am really bad at giving everybody updates on what's going on with Alpha Red, just because the movement is so slow, and part of it is me not understanding how slow it was going to be. And then there was one of the people who were helping to create Alpha Red. A close family member died, and so that set us back 3 weeks. And so I really was hoping that I would have all the files in before Thanksgiving, and that it would be at the printers and just me waiting for it to be printed while the Thanksgiving weekend was happening. But I didn't get the final pages until Thanksgiving Day. And so when you're in the throes of the holiday, it's hard to get back. Like, there's so many other obligations. I don't know, can you guys see all these little lines? There's so many obligations, and it took me a little while to get my mind back to where I needed it to be for Alpha Red. Because when you take time off of work, then your work gets backed up, and then you try to put out those fires, and then you're just so exhausted from the work stuff that you just want a mental break. But there's no rest for Alpha Red. So let's see, what am I missing? Hey, what's going on, Fong? I remember Sectars. I wanted the toys back in the 80s, but never got any. Let me tell you a quick, I was such a bad kid. We were so poor that whenever we went to Kmart, when my mom would take us to Kmart, I would steal toys. I was such a bad kid. I got caught 2 or 3 times, but it didn't stop me. And Sectars, I walked out with the Sectars. And you know how big they were. And I don't know. I don't even know how to excuse the 10, 11, 12-year-old me. I don't think I was that old. Maybe 10 or 11, but 12, I should have known better, I think. But yeah, I would steal G.I. Joes. Never any Transformers, but G.I. Joes were my favorite toys. And then Sectars, I did pocket a few. Fong says, I liked how you could put your hands into the bug. Yeah, the bugs and move their legs with your hand. Too many awesome toy lines back in the 80s. Yep. And I was listening to a podcast where Peter Simeti from the Comic Book Radio channel on YouTube, and he's a publisher of Alterna Comics. He was doing an interview with Ethan Van Sciver, and Ethan Van Sciver was talking about how close Cyberfrog was to being the next like Ninja Turtles. Like the same guy who had put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the map as far as toys and cartoons, was promising him, made big promises to him, and everything was kind of moving in that direction. And then Playmates, the Japanese owners of Playmates, came over and put the kibosh on like all the projects, fired a bunch of people, and so he lost out on the opportunity to become the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Cyberfrog. So it's really neat back in the 80s how he gave a formula. He said that the guy, the representative, gave him the formula to being like a multimillionaire property, and it had something to do with the cartoon and the toys and one other thing. It escapes me now, but he had the connections. You know, like everybody talks about Netflix now. If I draw a comic book and it gets a Netflix deal, that's big money. or whatever. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But that's what everybody talked about because Ninja Turtles were so big. And Ethan Van Sciver was saying that he was very, very close to having that happen. All right, that's the big gun, and then we'll do the sword. And the sword and the gun, I think I did this for both, where I just took the thing of the ruler here, and I just made it that size because I didn't want to have to make it parallel. So let me go up here and make a mark at the top of the sword where it bends, and then so that I don't blow through. And so when I come through, what I want to happen here is like to make it look like he's chopping him, and then Cable is putting up his arm to block it while holding the sword, and so like some sparks fly or whatever. So as I come down through with the blade, I'm gonna leave some of the lines untraced, so that I can go back in and not have to use like a white gel pen or something to make it look like I planned it all along, which I did, but I just want to make sure it looks that way as I come down through. And then I think I take it all the way down through to the hilt of the sword. Am I remembering the word right? The hilt. The part where it blocks your hand there, so you don't get sliced all the way down. So I want that. Give it some space there for some glowy stuff, which I'll fill in later, not super important. And then you still want to you don't want to connect all the lines down here because you want to put like chips and whatever in, like this is a war torn. Can you guys see that? As I'm putting in like other marks to look like it's a little bit more beat up, like it's not the first time he's used the sword. And then we'll hint at the line in the between here also. You don't want to do a whole line. So sectars, let's get back to sectars. So the comic, let me go grab it. Oh, because I can't explain why I'm gonna give it like a 6, maybe a 6.5. It wasn't like, it was worth the buck for sure. Hang tight. So I picked it up kind of because it has a blank cover. So I want to draw it. I hadn't seen it in a long time. And then I looked at the cover and I was like, man, that is an outstanding cover. And if it were drawn the whole way in this style, it would have gotten like a 7.5, maybe even an 8, because the story was definitely like meant for like this kind of artwork. But then you start going into it and it's just like cartoony. And if it was more of a cartoony vibe, I would have said, that would have been good. But there's a mix. There was like not a good pairing of artwork and story. The story was like more adult, and the drawing was a little bit more not adult. So I was a little disappointed when I read it. So that is my 2 cents on my reading this week. And the other thing that I read this week was Amazing Spider-Man number 62, Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness. 8 Deaths of Spider-Man or something like that. And I would give that a solid 7.5. And but I do admit that it's probably because I have an a liking of Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness, because way back when they turned me on to Deadpool. It was their Deadpool that, for me, sealed the deal. Deadpool was a favorite of mine for a long, long time during the late 90s, early 2000s. And it wasn't until recently here, probably with the movies, where it turned me off because of the language and things. I still like the character. I still like the look of the character, but this is supposed to be like metal on metal, some kind of energy spewing out here. Ernest says, we had it so good in the 80s. Toy aisles went for miles. For sure. Fong says, have you read Family Style by Tien Pham? Nope, I have not. It won an Eisner Award at the San Diego Comic-Con this past year. It's about his family's refugee immigrant story to the USA from Vietnam. I did not read that. I don't know if Family Style. There was another Vietnamese guy who translated his journey into a comic like many years ago. I want to say it was years ago, and it looked very indie, to be honest with you. And my style, my comic taste is very superhero bent. So if he didn't turn it into superheroes somehow, sadly, even Brother from Another Mother, his journey, it would take some convincing for me to purchase it. I'd probably read it, honestly. I'm curious about those things now. Those things have, I'm older. I would probably enjoy it, appreciate it now, as my parents are older. My mom is alive. My dad passed away a couple years ago. But just to appreciate their journey, bringing me here. I'm an immigrant, was not born here. So I appreciate a good journey from the war and all that stuff. We made it out 2 weeks before the fall of Saigon. So that's the story that I'm told, is that we heard it from Guam, that Saigon had fallen. But yeah, I remember writing an essay. That's the only reason why I know so much about how we left, is because I asked my parents so that I could do an essay in high school. But I don't know. Like I forget which parent I got the information from, and I read it to the other parent, and they're like, that's not really how it went. So I don't, But I was just a little baby. I was a baby. How about you, Fong? How old were you? Were you born here? Let me see here. What's going on, J. Scott? Happy Sunday night to you, man. I don't know if you caught last week's coloring of Starscream. I was like, where's my man J. Scott? He likes the coloring stuff. But Reverend Saber grabbed that up. His son, the apprentice, Had to have it, he said. And he snatched it up from the Etsy store. This one is not on the Etsy store. Typically, I would do it. I would put it up there. But I don't know. I didn't want to part with this. My son, my apprentice, he does like my artwork, and he likes to see what I draw. And I had that thing packed up and ready to go down to North Carolina, like in no time. And so he's like, "I didn't see it, Dad." I said, "Sorry, bud. I just needed to get it on the road before it got swallowed up by my office here." So I was able to show him today, because I did scan it. So I was able to show him a copy of it. But yeah, I think it turned out really good. I don't know what you guys thought of the Starscream from last week, but I thought it came out pretty good. I did scan it like in stages, so maybe I'll turn it into a print. Maybe I'll have somebody professionally color it, one of my colors. It all costs money, and I don't sell many prints anymore. I used to go to comic conventions and I would sell a bunch of prints, but I mean it's been a while since I've gone and just been an artist. Like, this whole year has been all about Alpha Red, so I'm holding my breath, guys. Those of you who've watched before know that holding the breath helps the lines go straighter. But the concentration has been on Alpha Red, so I don't sit there and I haven't made new prints to be see, this is what I was worried about. I can't get into the crevices of where my arm likes to be for some of these angles. So I don't know if it's worth doing a print, having it colored, and we're having JC Grande, the inker for Alpha Red number 6, to see if he could ink that up and bring some extra energy to it. You guys see what I'm doing here? Let me see. Fong says, "I went to Vietnam this past April for 10 days, spending time in Hanoi and Saigon." That's awesome. Like, I do want to go back, but my wife has no interest. I might be able to talk my daughter into it, and if my daughter goes, then maybe my older son, and maybe if the whole family went, she would come with us, just because she wouldn't want us to all die in a plane crash and she'd be the only one alive. That's how she thinks. So if I can get the whole family over, maybe that'd be my opportunity to go over. But let me see. Starscream looked awesome. Thank you, Pong. All right, let's this is kind of the fun part, right? I wanna do like the face. The faces are always fun, and just some of the details, the little textures that you get to kind of play with when you're making those decisions. So, and this is the cool part about drawing on an 11 by 17 sheet of paper instead of the smaller sketch covers and all that other stuff. Like with Alpha Red number 6, to save time, I drew it on a smaller scale. So it's been a while since I've really pulled out an 11 by 17 and kind of gone to town. And you can add so much more detail into an 11 by 17 page. And that was part of the problem, because I already like to noodle with drawings like forever, to add every little nook and cranny and all that good stuff. And so drawing on that smaller scale allowed me to move much faster from page to page. But then 2 days ago when I pulled this page out, it's 11 by 17 out, because I wanted it to be larger scale. It's just so much fun to be able to put this much into the page. Yeah, so I don't have much family over in Vietnam anymore, so I'd just be going back as a tourist. Most of my family's here. I know that on my dad's side, there's a couple of uncles and things that never came over, but all their sons and daughters have made it over here, and so I wouldn't have really many people to visit back there, and my Vietnamese is so bad. I hope Google has like some kind of translator because I stopped like knowing how to speak Vietnamese fluently very early. Like my Vietnamese vocabulary is like stunted at like a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old's vocabulary. And so I can't have adult conversations with adults without throwing in English words. Wow, it is already 8:39. So I knew that I probably would not be able to finish this, because we are going to end at 9 over on the Comic Book Radio YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing the art auction, and you can bid for the first couple of pages of Alpha Red #1 shortly after I end this draw stream. I'm going to pop over there, and I really, part of it was I was inspired by Rob Liefeld selling his Deadpool, first appearance of Deadpool, and how he talked about, selling the original art. So if you guys are not listening to Robservations on podcast, you're missing out. You're missing out a little bit. You don't have to like Rob Liefeld. You don't have to be a Rob Liefeld fan to appreciate the stuff that he says on there. I actually like him now more than I did back then. And like I said, I liked him. I liked his art. I was much more of a Jim Lee guy myself, but I definitely like him more now, just overall as a creator and a personality in the comic space than I did back then. Let's see if I'm missing anything. My dad passed away this year in April. Sorry about that, bro. Praise God, he received Christ last year, so I know I'll see him again. Amen to that. Amen. I visited my dad's family in Hanoi for the first time this year. That's awesome. I'm not fluent in Vietnamese either. Luckily, a lot of the younger people can speak English. Thank goodness for English, right? We're so spoiled. English-speaking people, we are very spoiled. You can go to almost any other country, and they will at least know what you're talking about. You won't understand it when they're making fun of you, but at least you can probably get something to eat or some directions or something. Yeah, we are definitely spoiled. No, sorry to hear about your dad. I know the passing of a parent is tough. I lost my dad like shortly after I came to New York. I moved away, living in Pennsylvania, and then I moved up to New York for a job. And within a year and a half, he passed away. And and it hit me harder than I thought it was gonna, because we weren't super close. There was a language barrier, you know, just all kinds of stuff. And he didn't approve that I was not Catholic. I was like, I'm a Christian, and he's like, that's not Catholic. And so there was some tension there all the time. So we weren't super close, but it hit me pretty hard. That was in 2017, I want to say. February 2017. So, been a long time. So for some things, I do like a lot of detail, but for like buckles, because Alpha Red has buckles on his shoulders, I've become pretty proficient at drawing buckles. And I just kind of have to know that the buckle's going to be there, and I know like how much room to leave and which way the buckle goes and things like that. So, and as I say that, I notice that it's off. Darn it. Darn it. So Fong, are you an artist? I don't know. How many of you guys are artists? Ernest, are you an artist? Or are you just a fan of artwork, fan of comics, fan of Christian themed comics? So Ernest, now that I'm thinking of it, you would have gotten your first taste of Alpha Red #1 because you got some of the sketch covers. So you have to. Did I leave enough of a cliffhanger on issue #1? Are you clamoring for the rest of the series? That was always a good sign for me when I finished a comic and I immediately wanted the next one. So that's what I try to create. That's what I try to create. So notice, like, I'm still using this 3, and I'll take the 3 throughout the whole thing, and then I'll go in again with the 5, and then probably an 8 at the end there to really bring in some line weights. That's how I build up the lines, the line weights. Just a thinner tip to kind of get everything in place and make sure I'm hinting at the things I want to be hinting at and not really overpowering any of the larger details that I'm eventually going to want to stand out. So like all the hairs on his arm and stuff will stay a 3. No need to get any thicker with those. I don't know if you guys can see all this stuff. I hate that my hand's kind of covering it all. But hopefully you guys can see the process here. And I was hoping that I'd be much farther along. Because the contest begins on Tuesday morning. So I want to be done by tomorrow night. And because I'll be over on Comic Book Radio, I will be kind of maybe I'll still do a little bit of this while I'm on there, but I won't have the time that I normally have after a draw stream to kind of tighten up anything that I did on the draw stream that didn't didn't get finished. But let me see if I'm missing anything. Fong is not an artist. He just loves comics and pop culture. That's awesome. I was really stoked to find your Kickstarter for Alpha Red number 6 and to find out you're also Vietnamese and was a bonus. Awesome. Ernest is a fan of comics and comic art. Getting a sketch card or cover art is just unique to me, and I'm happy to support people I like. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you found me, both of you. It just means a lot to know that I'm not doing this for nobody. I know there's a need for good content out there, and not just well done, but content that is for Christians, that we can pass along to our kids and share with our kids. You've heard me on this channel talk about what I can share and what I can't share with my son. And I wish I could share all of it with my son. I mean, I guess it's weird because I go back and I look at the comics that I picked up, and I don't know that I would share some of that stuff, some of the Jim Lee stuff, and from the late 90s. It was starting to get pretty salacious back then. I'd probably take a Sharpie to a lot of that if I still had it. But it is what it is, you know. And that's part of the goal of Alpha Red, is to really have something that families can share. It can sit on the coffee table and you can thumb through it. No bad language, no gory guts nobody being filleted. So, and hopefully that inspires other people, more people, to get into comics. I mean, you can grow into a more mature, other mature comics. But for kids, you know, superheroes, all that stuff, I like it. I want to keep it accessible. And I think it makes good business sense too. Not that that's what I'm doing it for, but why wouldn't you try to get as many fans as possible? And you got to get fans when they're young, so they get into the buying habit, like I did when I was a teen. I started collecting probably when I was 13, 14. In 90, 91, 92, that's when the Jim Lees and the Todd McFarlanes and Rob Liefelds were just starting to sizzle. And I've been a comic fan ever since. So hopefully somebody is discovering Alpha Red, and that will inspire them to not only pick up comics, but try to create comics. I don't know if this is a good way to do hair. This is the Jim Lee-ish way to do hair. I know that when Scott Williams gets a hold of it, it looks a little bit more uniform and looks pretty awesome, neat. But yeah, so this part of it is really just to make sure I get all the little details in that need to get in. Hopefully it's not falling off the page here. You guys can still see it. Okay. Yeah, so the other comic that I read this week was Amazing Spider-Man. I think I said that. Yep, Amazing Spider-Man number 62, and written by Joe Kelly and drawn by Ed McGuinness. And Ed McGuinness has still got it. I still like his artwork. I think it's actually better. It used to be really, really cartoony, and now it's definitely still cartoony because that's his style. But I don't know if I'm desensitized to the cartooniness of some artwork, but it's just a good fit for the tone of the book. And that was the problem with Sectars, was the tone. The tone didn't match the artwork and the story. They were not of the same tone. And here's where it kind of like this panel right here, this whole scene, I was like, that's just like a manga, and that's fine if the whole comic was like this, but it's not. It's a little bit more serious. And then there's when there's the betrayal and stuff, it gets pretty violent in there with like blood, and there's just lots and lots of blood. I'm like, okay, like sliced into the neck and stuff. I'm like, you could make it like a different color blood and it probably wouldn't hit as hard, but it definitely felt like there was like some violence. And but the drawing was like for kids. I mean, it was well drawn. I don't no shade on the artist, but definitely a younger kind of style for a younger toned book, in my opinion. Let's see what time it is. Oh, yep, about 6 more minutes. So you guys ready for Christmas? You guys sing Christmas carols? Are you hearing a lot of Christmas carols? I don't listen to much radio, so the only music I hear is on Sundays. And we moved churches, and so the church that we left was a contemporary church, and they did not seem to like singing Christmas music during Christmas. We would sing 1 or 2 on Christmas, but up until Christmas, it was just normal worship music. They finally started singing hymns. A new worship guy came, and he started doing hymns, and that was nice. See if I'm missing anything. Ernest says, I was wanting good stories again. Found Doug Ernst Soul Finder. Okay. Since then, I have really been supporting guys like you who just want to put out good stories and art. Thank you. Thank you, Ernest. Fong says, I'm trying to launch a Christian comic book convention here in the California Bay Area. Would you be interested in coming to share about and sell Alpha Red? Absolutely. It won't be until October 2026. Count me in, bro. Count me in. Always awesome work. Thank you, Crazy John. Crazy John. If you haven't checked out Crazy John's YouTube channel, he's got some interesting songs, interesting takes. Living long and prospering. And he's got a crowdfunder, Kickstarter. Is it still on Kickstarter, John? For his movie, for a book, I believe. Is it a book or is it a movie based on a book? John. So Crazy John is the inspiration for Crazy John in Alpha Red. So John Carricks was a friend from the old comic book store that I used to work at. And when he had the opportunity, when I put out word for a fundraiser to be in the comic, John helped me out by being a part of the comic. And John is also the writer of the Alpha Red theme song that I play every week at the end. So if you have not stayed through the end of the draw stream, I would invite you to stick around for the end and listen to John's song about Alpha Red. Let's see, interviews of you on here. Yeah, yep. John visits me at conventions when I'm in the Harrisburg area, and he has a couple of interviews with me on there. That the last one did pretty well, right, John? Over 1,000 views. So you had good questions for me or something. People dug that one. So maybe John and I will start a little podcast channel reviewing some comics and what we like and what we don't like. I'll wear my glasses, John. No mistaking those grasshopper faces for something else. John shared with me the cover to his poster for his movie, and I couldn't make out what the what the faces were on the one thing, and my mind was in the gutter for sure. All right, guys, it is that time. As we wind down, I want to show you just some quick things that will be going on the auction over on Comic Book Radio. So whenever I switch off here, I'm going to jump over there. This is the... Do I have the thing over here? Yep. So I have homage covers for the first 5 issues of Alpha Red. And this is the cover to issue number 4. And I used Amazing Fantasy number 15 as the homage cover. And this is how I created it. Just printed it out real light, and then I drew over it with pencil, and then inked it, and then was able to use a bunch of other things to kind of create a cover that looks almost identical to the Amazing Fantasy 15 cover. And so that'll be up for auction. Did the same thing for issue number 3. And instead of it saying 003, it was Amazing Spider-Man number 300 that I used, and so I put 003 instead of 300. But the original art for that will be on sale, and I think it's going to be cheap. It's going to start off with $20, and then for another 10, you get the actual comic too. And then this here is page 1 of issue number 1 of Alpha Red. Now, when I redid it, when I remastered it this year, I added 2 pages to the front of issue number 1 using some artwork from issue number 4. So this became page 3, but this is the original issue number 1, page 1. So that will be early. There were some people who were looking forward to that yesterday, and we never got around to it. So, and this is the first full splash page of Alpha Red, and that is also from issue number 1. And this is page 3, issue number 1, and page 4. So these will go on sale over at Comic Book Radio. The cover of issue number 4, regular cover for issue number 4, is still available and will go up for auction, and the current Alpha Red issue number 6 cover will still is still available and will go up for auction tonight if we have time. So guys, thank you for hanging out with me, and thank you for doing this every week and keeping me company, and just kind of spreading it out. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Really appreciate you guys being here. I'm gonna read through the last of it here because I don't want to leave you guys hanging. Fan of comics. Crazy John says interviews of you. Yep. And the last one says always nice to do work with a great creative mind like you. Thank you, John. we also do a long Zoom interview a year ago. Yeah, when I got started, you were one of the first guys to invite me onto your channel. So guys, thank you again, and I hope to see you over at Comic Book Radio. And until next week, guys, grace, peace.
He rises with courage in his heart, a beacon of hope. He's ready to start with faith as his armor and a fire in his soul. Alpha Red stands tall, fulfilling his role. Alpha Red, the hero we need. With the power of faith, he'll always succeed. Fighting darkness, he'll never dread. For the world is safe with Alpha Red, Red. In a world full of chaos, where evil may lurk, he fights for the righteous, his mission and work. Guided by God, with strength from above, he battles the darkness with unyielding love. Alpha Red, the hero we need. With the power of faith, he'll always succeed. Fighting darkness, he'll never dread. For the world is safe with Alpha Red, Alpha Red. When the night seems too long and hope seems so far, look to the skies, we'll see his bright star. With a prayer and a promise, he faces the fight. Alpha Red shines through, the beacon of light. Alpha Red, the hero we need. With the power of faith, he'll always succeed. Fighting darkness, he'll never dread. For the world is safe with Alpha Red. So stand tall with courage, let your faith lead the way. With Alpha Red beside us, we'll see a brighter day. For evil may tremble, but never forget, the world is protected by our hero, Alpha Red. Alpha Red. Alpha Red.